So here we are. We're kind of at the end of Dragonflight's Embers of Neltharion patch. I think it was a good patch, but I do have some problems with it, and I just wanted to kind of take a minute and go over my problems with this season and kind of talk it out with you guys. So yeah, we did have quite a bit added into this patch, and it's got me excited for Season 3. Number one, the Zerolek Cavern. It was a new area underneath the Dragon Isles. I think it was cool. I liked how you didn't have to zone into it. You could just fly down, and it was always there, and whatever. It's fine. I didn't care for it that much. Like, the zone, I guess, was cool, being in a lava cave. It's fine, but it didn't really get me, like, super charged up. So I think I went down there, and I started doing some of the main story quests, and then I quickly kind of fell off. You know, they have the Niffin reputation, the new species down there. They're kind of based on Americans. They're like these little knoll dudes. They're fine. Like I said, I didn't really care too much about everything down there. I started out strong. My goal at the start of the season was to do all the quests, and I quickly decided I'm not doing that because I think I switched between my pally. No, I switched back from my warrior to my pally at the start of this season. So it was just like, yeah, it quickly took all the wind out of my sails of trying to do all the quests when it's like my warrior already had pretty much everything done, and then to switch to a different character, it was like, I'm not re-grinding everything. What's the point of grinding out this reputation when my other main character had all the reputations already almost done? So it's like, from a completionist aspect, that kind of killed the drive to do that for me. So I hope at some point they get to a point where it's like, if I've done the quests on my main character, I don't need to redo them all here. Just give me the reputation on this guy. Let me continue the grind with this. That would have kept me in it, really. And the fact that I switched characters because I was bored of my warrior and I wanted something to help the group out a little bit more, that was just a big slog. This leather drake was cool. I don't know. The dragon riding mounts are cool, but they're not really like too captivating for me because as I'm doing my transmog for each of my characters, I want something that's like unique to them. So, for example, with my hunter, he's got like this mechanized transmog. He's using the heirloom outfit that they get, and the heritage armor, sorry. He's using that, and it's like the drakes don't really match up with that at all. There's not really that much customization. It's just a drake with armor, and you change the way that it looks, which is fine. That's the whole theme of the expansion, so that's fine, but I didn't really use this leather drake at all. Cross-faction guilds was a huge win for me. That was a big win. I've always been an alliance player. We switched to horde to play with George and Sergio, so that was a huge win. I could finally go back and switch to my Dark Iron Dwarf, and I could have my Night Elf back, and it felt good to go back to Stormwind, but the problem is WoW is still stuck in the past where they have servers that you can't switch amongst, so it's like we went to a primarily horde server, and now we're there, and it sucks because now that I'm cross-faction and we have our alliance characters, there's nobody in Stormwind on Area 52. It's like 90% horde on that server. So they really need to just let the walls down and let you switch around. Like, I keep going back to RuneScape, where it's like, in that game, servers don't really matter. You switch to the server you want to play on, and it would be cool to be in a guild with my friends and then also just switch to a server with more alliance players, just to be able to talk in trade chat and look for somebody to craft something for me without feeling super penalized for, whatever. So that's fine. The gear upgrading system was cool. It is kind of confusing at first. There's a lot of moving parts to it, so I know they're going to refine that going into Season 3, so that'll be cool. It would be nice if you could, like, get a piece of gear and they have the item level front and center like they have it now, but below that, in parentheses, say, ranging from this to this, just so you know, like, a little reminder of what you can upgrade the item to instead of wasting time. Like, there are a couple of moments in this season where it's like, I upgraded a piece of gear all the way thinking it would go up to a certain level, and then it didn't. And I know you can Google that stuff, and there's add-ons for that, but that should really be a part of the game. I mean, without it, the system is kind of like confusing, and there's a lot of moving parts to it. So I think that would be something they could add. The Farak assaults were fine. I did them a few times. I didn't ever really feel like it was something worth doing. You know, I'm a guild master. Our guild primarily does Mythic Plus, so we get a lot of good gear pretty easily just from doing that, and that's our main focus anyways, so it's like, why ever really bother with this? The Aberrus raid, Season 1 we were more on it with the raids, but this season it was just very bad timing because I've had so much travel kind of throughout the course of this season that kind of took the wind out of my sails for trying to get into the raid, because it's like I'm just trying to make sure that I get KSM and I get stuff in the vault every week. So then with travel taking away from our scheduled weekly runs, that ate into our raid time, so it really kind of just kneecapped us there. So that was kind of a bummer. I think Aberrus looked cool, but there was also, like, thematically for me, the transmogs were not that cool. I don't like how each season is so hyper-focused in one art style, so then you get the gear out of there and it's like, well, that looks cool, but it really only goes with the gear from that patch, and you get tired of seeing it by the end of the patch, so it's like, I don't know, you get this gear and it doesn't feel like it can ever really move over and match with other pieces of gear, so it was kind of a bummer, and so that's why we didn't really mess with Aberrus too much. Then we go to 10.1.5. We had the new augmentation spec release, and it was fine. We had a guild member switch to that, and I was hoping for more from that spec, but it just feels like it is nice having your class buffed, and that is kind of cool. It's just different for WoW, you know. It's not something I'm really used to, so I'll be curious to see how that progresses. Like, do we have other specs get modified to fit that role, or, you know, whatever. The Dawn of the Infinite Mega Dungeon, we went in there a couple times, messed around with it. It's cool, but again, it's this weird middle ground where we want stuff for the vault, and you go in there and it doesn't do anything for the vault. The gear might be a little bit higher than what you can get from other dungeons, but it just kind of felt like a waste of time for us as a Mythic Plus guild, so we didn't mess around with it too much. Cross-realm trading, cool. Time rifts, cool. Now that I probably should have spent more time with, because that's very useful when you're leveling a new alt, trying to gear them up and get them ready to kind of get caught up with higher level characters in your guild. It's very useful, and I should have done more with it, but the Whelp Daycare I pretty much skipped. I didn't care. The next Ramus crafting is a cool idea, and I like it, but I haven't messed with it just because I've been too busy with travel. The 10.1.7 Dream Surges, also cool, like the Time Rifts. I kind of discovered that and the Time Rifts at the same time, so I think those are really cool, and that's a useful idea going forward. You know, every half hour something's proccing, or every hour, depending on what patch, so that's cool. Really helped me gear up my warrior pretty quickly for Season 3. And the Night Elf and Forsaken Heritage armor sets are very cool. I like those a lot. I went and did that with my Night Elf and my Forsaken. I'm probably going to wear those heirloom sets for a while. I'm a big Night Elf guy, so I was a little bummed they didn't do more with that. I felt like most of it was focused on the Forsaken. So I'm guessing that's because we're going to have a big Night Elf focus in the next patch. So, fine. Ping system was cool. I usually don't run with pugs that much, and the times that we have, they didn't really use it. It's funny enough, though, today, before recording this, I actually had somebody like using the ping system, and it's like, okay, that's fine. If you run with a lot of pugs, that's cool, but for my guild, it doesn't really see that much use because we can just call it out on audio chat. So, but that's not really for us, so that's fine. It doesn't have to be. Now, moving into the main focus for the season, Mythic Plus. You know, we're a Mythic Plus guild, so they added Incorporeal, Afflicted, Entangling. These affixes were fine. I didn't really have too much of an issue with any one of these. Yeah, I mean, I get incorporeal and afflicted confused. In the moment, it's fine, but I don't know. They don't really bother me that much. They removed Quaking. That's fine. I didn't mind Quaking that much. Grievous was annoying. Explosive was extremely annoying, so I'm glad they got rid of that. It was just so hard to target them when you had, like, big pulls. And I think the difficulty of targeting something shouldn't be the problem, you know. Yes, clicking on it and DPSing it to get rid of the explosive was fine, but actually targeting it was the hardest part. So that's fine. This season, the dungeon pool was okay. You know, I'm not a big fan of the BFA dungeons, so it was kind of a bummer seeing Underrot and Freehold in here. I wish they would go back to more of the older dungeons like they did with Vortex Pinnacle. Like, why can't we get Lich King dungeons in here? Why can't we get Burning Crusade dungeons in here? Modify them a little bit, spruce them up. You have the whole dungeon right there. Just, if it doesn't really match well with Mythic Plus, just tune it up a little bit. Make a couple changes for the Mythic Plus version. I don't know why that's so hard, and it's a bummer that because, like, BFA, they keep going back to it. And, like, the next season we have all these other BFA dungeons, and it's just a bummer. So I really hope they get away from that. They have this long, rich history of awesome dungeons. Go use them. Like, do it more. I don't know. It's a bummer we only get like 1 or 2 legacy dungeons every patch. So I want to see more from that. And this season it was cool too to have another ground mount. I think that's how it should be. You know, if you want to go out and do the raid and get head of the curve and beat the boss, whatever, give a cool flying mount for that. Give a cool ground mount for dungeons, because when you're doing a dungeon, you want to show that off. And if you have a big flying mount that can't fit through stupid doorways, that's kind of annoying. So I'm a big fan of the ground mount for KSM. And I like how now you have that little extra incentive to go and grind out your 2500 rating, because if you want that cool mythic appearance on your armor, you just push up to 2500 rating and boom. Then you got that cool transmog, and that's a little extra carrot on the stick for everyone else. And then, yeah, if you want to go further than that, you have your plus 20 keys for your portals, so that's fine too. So, I don't know, I think all in all this season was good. I did like it. I have the approach I took with this season was I had started a big race in the guild. You know, let's race to see who can get to KSM the fastest, and that was good in some ways and bad in others, because, like, for me personally, it was fun competing, and then, you know, I left to go to Vegas right after the season started, so I thought I had a good enough lead, and then, you know, Sergio pulled ahead and beat me, so that's fine. That it was a fun race, but then that left us in a weird spot of everyone in the guild got KSM pretty quickly, barring one guy, but he had, like, a lot of stuff moving, and so we'll give him a pass for that, but he'll get KSM 2 before the season's over. But I think what my plan is for the next season is I'm going to try be more laid back with my WoW. I want to keep focusing on the channel, so I'm not going to run as much. I want to just stick to my Friday, Saturday night runs. If I get the urge to play WoW and I want to do things in between those, I will, but I'm going to really try to not run unless it's with the guild. And I want to try focus on that more. So that's my goal going into Season 3. I just want to take it slower, enjoy the ride. The problem with the game right now is it's like you can rush to get gear, but it just kind of sucks because all that grinding is really for nothing. You know, as we've seen with this patch, it's like 10.1.5, 10.1.7. They give out gear pretty easily, so it's like if you fall behind and the new patch comes out, you can just go do that and catch up with gearing there. And the gearing is not very intensive anyways. Like, I was looking back at my notes from the start of this season, and I felt like I could have pretty easily gotten a KSM at item level 413, and then now we're 440, and when we're doing dungeons, it's like, oh, if we're gonna do 15, we want to make this easy, let's look for people 430 plus, and it's like, it's not really necessary. So the grind and the push to get your item level up that high doesn't really matter, especially when we're running with guildies anyways. So that's kind of why I'm going to take this approach. And the other thing is, you know, my biggest hope going forward is I hope they do make a change to Mythic Plus. It is a bummer that when you're running with guildies, you're penalized for not timing it. And I understand why the timer is there in Mythic Plus, but on the other hand, if we're running with a small guild and we are all playing the classes we want to play, if they're not meta and we're struggling to make time because of that, that's a bummer. And if we're all there and committed, just let us run the dungeon. If we beat it, you could even do something where it's like, keep the timer there. If you don't beat the timer, your key stays the same if you're in a guild group. If you don't finish it, then it levels down. Fine. But if we're there and we're willing to push on and do this, it just sucks playing with a group of friends and then being penalized for that on top of it. Just because we have people that want to play a certain class. That shouldn't be a problem. So that's my biggest hope going forward with Mythic Plus. I really want to see them make a change there with that timer, at least with guild groups. Pugs, I'm totally fine with leaving the system the way it is. If you want to gamble your hard-earned key with some pugs and possibly risk having it de-leveled, that's your call. But if you're playing with friends and in a guild, it really, that's a tough pain point. And I think it creates animosity where it's like, we shouldn't feel that way when we're playing with friends and playing with a guild. It should just be fun. Let's go play, let's do a dungeon, let's get our gear, and that's a benefit for playing with a guild too. You shouldn't, I don't know. That's my one point and my one hope for the next season is do something with the timer if you're in a guild group. It's not super necessary to me, and I think that would improve things a lot and just make the game feel more relaxed. That timer adds a lot of stress, and it's an artificial stress. So I don't know. That's my one thing. Let me know what you think about that in the comment section down below. Should they get rid of that timer if you're in a guild group? Let me know. Until next time, I'll see you later. This video is brought to you by your support on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/GrouchyGus94 to help support the channel.